Hello, everybody. What about us? What about the Medfield College Film Society? What about me, Jeff Crawford? Here with you as always. And what about our society members? What about my brother Michael? Michael, how you doing?
I'm tired of your whataboutism. What about me? I'm fine. You know, I'm a little feeble. I hurt my back like 2 weeks ago. It's still haunting
My back.
me. I'm a little stodgy, little old man now.
Man, the Crawfords and their backs. I had that before you, and let me tell you, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but I feel your pain. What about Andy? Andy, how you doing?
I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful.
And what about Bob? Bob Mack, Robert McSwain, founder, president.
Yeah, what about Bob here? I'm up here on the shoreline of beautiful Lake Winnipesaukee. Actually, it's not. If North Carolina was to have a Lake Winnipesaukee, it may be the lake that I'm on currly.
Yes. You are living
beautiful Lake Allure, North
That's
Carolina
right.
tonight.
You are living the vision of Bob, or whatever, Dr. whatever his name is.
Dr. Leo Marvin.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dr. Leo Marvin.
Spending the night with my therapist up here on Lake Lure. So
It's great. Hope everybody's holidays went well. I know I had a wonderful holiday. And here we are in a new year. Time to get right. You know, a lot of people work on their mental health during the new year. And I wonder what we're watching tonight after all this intro. Michael, what do you think?
Well, what about it? We are watching the 1991 Touchstone classique. What about Bob? Directed by one legendary Frank Oz. Yes, the man himself. Written by Tom Schulman, who wrote Dead Poets Society.
What?
Hey, Touchstone Golden Boy.
Yeah, also rewrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, did like a last minute polish on that. So he's all over the stone of touching. The story for this movie came from Alvin Sargent and Laura Ziskin. She was a very prolific producer. I remember her name from many movies, but Sargent was a 2-time Oscar winner for Julia and for Ordinary People. And he also wrote Spider-Man 2 and 3, the Raimi ones.
Okay.
He's also the cousin of one Alvin Sargent York.
Wow.
Just a
Get
little bit of trivia there. This movie stars Bill Murray, Richard Dreyfuss, Julie Haggerty, Charlie the Kid Korsmo, and this is a Frank Oz joint.
Yeah, so I didn't take a long time to look this up, but I wondered, is this our Korsmo icebreaker here? Is this
it's got
okay? That's what I thought. So I don't think we've had one yet. Our entree into the oeuvre.
Yeah, dipping our toes in Lake Korsmo.
Well, that's great. I saw in Turner Classic Movies site that Patrick Stewart was originally considered for Dr.
Make it so, Bob.
Yes, I saw that too. Yes.
Can you imagine Bob now? Bob.
It's so amazing. Oh, yeah.
He played a version of that on SNL where he was the Scottish therapist.
Yeah.
True.
So-
Is that the same one where he walks in the door and it plays the Scottish music?
Yes.
Da, 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 da.
He's Phil McGregor, a Scottish therapist. I think his character's name.
Maybe that was the inspiration.
I'm assuming we've all seen this one. This is one of those rare ones that I think we probably all
Yeah, I
seen.
believe so.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen it since the theater.
Do you remember your theater experience?
I mean, I remember elements from it. I Baby Steps has long been in my lexicon. I remembered elements of it, not completely everything that happened. So there were lots of fresh surprises, but I remember the gist of it But
I remember my father's strong reaction to this movie, so I wonder if we went and saw it as a family, which
that would be odd, wouldn't it?
would be odd. But I remember
not
him being
possible. But I could see, and watching it now, I totally get that reaction.
Yes, he had a very it's akin to the out of towners and the pain scale. Or the out of towners is high on his pain scale.
Yes,
along with "In the Summertime" by Mungo Jerry, the song.
Torture movies and a torture song.
Yeah. 1991. So I think I would have probably been in the 7th grade. Mm-hmm. So this movie hit the perfect time for me. I mean, it was. I didn't sit in the theater. I remember all the cool kids talking about it and quoting it. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Have you seen that movie? Good. What about Bob?" And I remember rushing to the video store to rent the VHS, and never looked back.
Somewhere Eisner was smiling as all the cool kids talked about What About Bob, his Touchstone release. Hello, kids.
I was a huge Bill Murray fan, though. Of course, coming off of Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just loved Bill Murray. And so I think, what else did he do during this time? Did he do Groundhog's Day?
It was around the time of
like
that.
He could do no wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's about to do Ed Wood. Good stuff. Well, Robert, do you have any fond memories of What About Bob?
I think I saw it in the theater. I don't recall my theater experience. I remember liking it a lot, and loving Bill Murray like Andy. And I remember hearing a lot of grumbling about his antics on this movie that were wearing thin for a lot of people on set.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And same thing with Groundhog Day, that him and Harold Ramis weren't getting along at all in that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you read like anything about this, there are a ton of he and Dreyfuss hated each other, or Dreyfuss hated him at least.
Huh.
And Bill Murray, they both thought it was kind of good for the acting because it helped that he hated him in real life, that he could hate him as the character. Bill Murray's like, I'm just helping him out, making him hate me. It makes the acting good.
The Dreyfuss was very professional and very into the craft, and Bill liked to shoot from the hip and just get into the moment. And it was driving him nuts. They worked completely opposite how they worked together. And I read that Frank Oz was like, yeah, I thought it was a great dynamic because it really pulled the best out of the characters. But he said, maybe in hindsight, maybe I should have reeled it in a little bit more. But he said he was basically cutting Bill Murray loose on Dreyfuss every day.
He was like, yes, excellent. More, please. Yeah. Yeah, Bill Murray, I think, threw the producer in a lake. So, stuff like that.
Doing Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time we start to peel this apple. What do you say, Robert, when you take us into the world of What About Bob?
And we start with the traditional Touchstone picture keyboard stinger. So that was nice.
Yeah, always nice.
Our opening credits start with a goldfish swimming about as the credits play with some whimsical music. Our fish passes back and forth, and finally it is revealed to be in a bowl as we hear somebody repeating, as Andy did in the opening, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful, over and over again.
All right, so right away, though, I have a question. Was the font used for the opening credits, was that a test for a mental test? Because the way that it sat, it was uncomfortable. It didn't line up just right. They kind of sat on top of each other. And for people who have I don't know, a bit of anxiety about that kind of stuff, I wonder if that was
isn't it? Yeah, maybe I had a little anxiety about it. I thought it was an interesting choice. I don't know. Maybe
it bothered me, and so I was like, I don't like this. And so I was curious if that played the whole mental part.
Testing you. It's it's sorting you out. Yeah.
The camera passes by lots of medication as Bill Murray sits on a bed, massaging his temples. He's brushing his teeth and getting ready for the day. He passes by his fish Gil, wishes him a good morning, says he needs to head to work, and clocks in on a punch clock on his desk.
Yeah, working from home, 1991.
I know. That's the hookup right there.
He then musters up the strength to walk out into a very narrow hallway that he walks down without touching anything, then opens the door with a tissue and walks into a loud, busy street in New York, where he is crippled with anxiety.
Let me tell you, this movie hits a lot different in the year of our Lord 2024 than it did in 1991. Like right from the beginning, I'm like, yeah, dude, totally. I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Mm-hmm.
But has the world changed or have you changed, Michael? That's the question.
Both. Both considerably. Yeah.
And the dynamic, as soon as he opened the door, it was just like boom, loud, because it was kind of quiet everywhere. And I just thought that was interesting how it really does attack you as soon as he opens it.
Yeah, it was like really intentionally the way they like juiced up the volume. That was cool. Yeah.
So we cut to an office where Richard Dreyfuss is making plans for Good Morning America to come to interview him at Lake Winnipesaukee. Seems he's written a book that's getting some positive press, or at least he hopes it will. He gets interrupted that another doctor wants to talk to him. It seems his colleague is quitting his practice for a while and wants Leo to take one of his patients for him.
Dr. Richard Nygaard.
AKA Dan the High Talker from Seinfeld.
Yep. That's where I was getting ready to go. Did anyone catch that? So yes, it's Dan the High Talker from the Seinfeld universe.
We say that Dreyfuss is peak Dreyfuss right out of the blocks.
Oh my gosh.
Phone combo.
Yes.
He's just burying the needle on that Dreyfussing.
So the doctor, whose name is Caswell, wants Leo to take Bob off his hands. Caswell seems relieved to get rid of his patient, Bob. We see Bob walking down the street, repeating, "I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful," as crazy New Yorkers walk past. He goes into Dr. Leo Marvin's high-rise building, finds out he has to take the elevator, but can't find the courage to take it, and goes up the steps instead. A little reminiscent of the scene where they're climbing up to Dana's apartment in Ghostbusters.
Definitely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I thought the Caswell guy, the other doctor that calls in, was almost a Monty Python skit, because he's like packing up all the stuff, and like I half expected him to like jump out the window at the end, be like "thank you," and then like jump out the window or something like that, because he was done.
So Bob arrives out of breath and waits with some good Bill Murray look takes there in the waiting room.
Yeah, his face after he arrives, when he's like gasping for air, right away, I was like, this is peak Bill Murray right here. This is so good.
So Bob comes in and shakes hands with a tissue and proceeds to guess the names of Dr. Marvin's family, which we are introduced to with some quick cuts. We see his son Sigmund, who looks less than thrilled to be photographed. They proceed to stare at each other uncomfortably, and Bob starts saying he's got problems. He's worried about sickness. He gets weird. Quote unquote, when he goes out. And lots of anxiety. Basically, every kind of discomfort and condition you can have, Bob has it.
Yeah, Dreyfuss is just sitting there with his like hand on his side of his face.
Yeah. And like everything is like, tell me about, like Bob will say something and like, tell me about whatever he just said. And he'll say something else, like, tell me about whatever. Yeah. It's also, I was impressed that this hot shot psychiatrist had an appointment available that fast for Bob. I was like, that's it's science fiction-y for me, but.
So Bob's worried about, his heart stops beating. What happens then? And he's worried if he needs to go to the bathroom, his bladder explodes. He says he likes to fake that he has Tourette's, because if you fake it, then you don't have it.
Which I liked that line.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a little bit of, there's some things that Bob says throughout this movie that I'm like, there's a little bit of truth to some of this. It's kind of helpful in a way.
Yeah, totally.
He says he's divorced because there are two types of people in the world: those who like Neil Diamond and those who don't.
You're dang right.
Yeah, amen.
And she loves Neil Diamond.
See, Bob's wrong in that.
Dr. Marvin suggests that his wife left him not because of Neil Diamond, that this leads Bob to believe that Leo can finally help him. We get a nice window into the ego that Dr. Marvin possesses as he hands Bob a copy of his book called Baby Steps.
I love this bit where he's like, there's a book out that might help you. And he goes to his like bookshelf. There's a whole shelf of Baby Steps, but he like looks at all the other books. He's like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
It's called Baby Steps.
And this
So
giant bust of Sigmund Freud.
Oh, yeah, everywhere.
Bob immediately adopts the philosophy both literally and figuratively. He takes small steps everywhere and as he leaves, Leo informs him that he is going on vacation until Labor Day and it's going to be an entire month without talking to Leo, and Bob is not happy about this. Leo takes notes on a recorder, maps out his problems, and adds a reminder to bill Bob for the book.
I need a dictaphone for all my business. I realized watching this movie.
Yes.
After I have any dealings with people, I need to stroll around looking up in the air, dictating to my dictaphone.
Absolutely, yeah.
His secretary comes in and says that Good Morning America is coming to Lake Winnipesaukee. So they are excited about that. Bob makes it to the elevator and screams all the way down.
You know, again, baby steps. It works. It's actually
working,
not a
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not a
I
bad
was
idea.
like, this is like, this is, again, getting way too real here. It's like, how many times have I been told, just take it one little bit at a time? And it's like baby
Right.
steps. It's like, I think half the, therapy industry took their advice from this movie.
So we cut to Bob watching the Brady Bunch, and he's not doing too great here. He's on the phone trying to track down Dr. Marvin's whereabouts. He tells the switchboard operator to tell Dr. Marvin that he needs to talk to him, and we get a nice little split screen as they interact. And then we get a nice wipe out of the split screen to Lake Winnipesaukee as the phone rings, and the operator says that Bob wants to talk and that it's urgent. Dr. Marvin reluctantly accepts the call, tells him that he made it clear that his associate was handling his patients for him while he was on vacation, as Bob tries to make small talk. How's the brood?
So
Also,
creepy.
Lake, what was it called? Lake Winnipesaukee?
Winnipesaukee.
Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia.
I know.
Yes, it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not too
Looking
far.
nice.
Bob says he's worse than usual and it's really bad and he just needs to know where he is. Later that night, the phone rings again. It's the operator says his sister is trying to reach him, which begs the question, why would his sister be calling his office and not just dialing direct? But nevertheless, it's revealed that Bob hired a lady on the street to pose as Leo's sister. He takes the phone and sprays it down before talking on the phone.
That's smart.
I laughed because he's like, it's not you, it's me. I thought that was nice.
Did anyone catch who the prostitute was?
No.
Didn't.
Oh my gosh. It's Janice Soprano.
Was that
from The
Janice?
Soprano. That was Janice. It was one of her first roles.
That would
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not my oeuvre, but I did catch that Dr. Leo Marvin's deck phone was our grandmother's phone.
Yes.
Michael, did you catch that?
Yes. Totally. Yes.
Man, the deck phone, that's like some real hoity-toity stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
It is.
Cool.
He was living the life out there on the porch,
Was,
just
yeah.
enjoying it. Yeah.
So Leo scolds him for faking the call, and Bob is quite upset. But he goes right back to it again, calls at the switchboard. Bob is posing as a detective now, shows up and says that Bob killed himself. Says the note mentioned Betty and says he needs to talk to Dr. Marvin and ask a few questions, and says they can call him, but Bob asks what if he needed to write him a letter instead. And Betty just willingly hands out the address.
Why? Why would you do that?
But hold on real quick. Bob, when he shows that he's a detective, he holds up a Blue Cross Blue Shield badge.
Yeah.
Insurance
I'm
badge.
trying to figure out like what it was at first, and that tied back to like my other irritation at the at the psychiatrist's office, like, where's this prolonged scene of him filling out paperwork and doing his copay? Because that's all, it's all very important part of the process here. But yeah, that cracked me up with the card at the door.
Bill, I mean, he's just stealing every scene he's in right now. It's great. Back at Lake Winnipesaukee, Betty calls and tells Leo that Bob has committed suicide, and Leo is unmoved by the news and claps his hands, turn off the lights. Nice little gag for the times there.
Oh, the clapper.
Bob is at the bus terminal with a jar around his neck containing Gil.
Oh, leave Gil out of this, man. God,
yes,
more Gil.
Don't take your fish on the road.
He can't bring himself to get on the bus. Wing, the bus driver, who's come to know Bob, is trying to encourage Bob to get on. He finally does, and it takes a seat and asks the guy next to him if he could just knock him out.
That's pretty funny.
At Lake Winnipesaukee, Leo and his family are getting some groceries from the film crew. Bob is on the bus, fake barfing and making everybody uncomfortable. And they finally arrive. He gets off the bus with applause. And as the bus pulls away, we wrap up act number 1.
I just say at this point, I'm not on board with Bob at all. I'm like, okay, you just need to call the police on this dude, because
I was wondering who was going to win out, the insinuating person who didn't pick up on social clues, which is bothers Michael, or the yuppie, upwardly climbing professional person blind to other human social cues, which is another trope that bothers you.
Yes, it's really Alien versus Predator as far as I'm concerned. It really is. But it's funny, as the movie goes on and like the dynamic shifts, my perception changes. But at first I'm like, Leo, just call the police on this guy. He's clearly insane.
Yeah, that is the move at this point. Like Leo's done a good job of setting boundaries, and they haven't been listened to, so call the police.
Yeah.
Can I just say I want to go to this general store though?
Yeah, it's a nice store. I like this little area here that they've got. This little gathering area. Yeah.
Well, Bob immediately sets about yelling, "Dr. Marvin! Dr. Leo Marvin!" as people around the store look at him, and it just so happens the Marvin family is coming out of that same store. Leo sees Bob and is spotted by him. He hurries his family back to their car and loads them up. Bob pleads with Leo to talk to him. Leo is understandably irritated, as he thought he was dead. As he realizes he faked everything. He says Bob's behavior is completely inappropriate. Bob says, "You're angry." "I don't get angry," Leo says. "You're upset." "I don't get upset," says Leo. It's okay to be angry and upset, Leo, I would say, in this situation.
Yes. Allow yourself. Yes.
Exactly. I was like, this was the first clue to me. I mean, not the first clue, but this was a big red flag about him being a therapist or, psychiatrist, saying that he doesn't get angry, he doesn't get mad. That's the exact opposite of what they go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Bob starts going into, "I'm in bad shape. Gimme. I need. It's so intense. It's so much. Even through the screen, I can't imagine how that felt for professional Richard Dreyfuss. Leo, to shut him up, says, "If you buy a bus ticket home and wait at the coffee shop, I'll call you in 2 hours. Just buy the ticket." And I would say to Leo, that's way too much trust.
Yes.
To give to Bob. Take him to go buy the ticket, and just stay with him. Don't put 2 hours on it. Just wait and talk with him until his bus comes. Make sure he's on the bus, and send him home.
Yeah, be done with it,
or call the police.
Yeah, you need oversight at all times and possibly police backup. Yes.
Bob is in the coffee shop, another place I want to go, staring at the clock, saying, baby step till 4 o'clock. He asks for a bowl for his fish, who has been in a small jar around his neck for the duration of his trip. Again, I don't approve of this.
No.
Someone tries to get on the phone, and he loses his mind because he's supposed to be getting a call from Leo. He says if he passes out or if something happens to him, contact Dr. Leo Marvin, to which the owners of the coffee shop sneer. They say Leo bought their dream house. He swooped down with his bag of money and grabbed it out from under us. Stay as far away from him as possible. Yeah, they're great.
Yes, perfectly cast.
I really don't. I remember their presence later in the film, but I don't remember this backstory, which is great explanation for why they appear later in the film, and I really love them. But it's such a great little gimmick.
And they have like accents of some sort, like
German or
yeah, because they're supposed to be in New Hampshire, and so they've got this very really thick accent, and how she just keeps saying terrible things. He's like, she never says that,
right? Well, they find out that he won't see Bob, and they said, "Well, he won't see you. We'll show you where he lives." We cut to the Marvin household as an uptight Leo is teaching his son Siggy how to dive. He says he's taking time away from getting ready for Good Morning America to teach Siggy how to dive because it's that important to him, which is obnoxious. Siggy is not having it, and when Leo asks Siggy why he always wears black, he says he's mourning my lost childhood, which I love. When he asks him why he won't dive, he says, with all the horror in the world, what difference does he make? Hey, man, this kid's starting to make some sense here. What difference does it make if he can dive or not?
No difference.
Inside the
we
hut.
talk about Charlie there, the kid, the run he had for 2 years, starring alongside Warren Beatty, Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, and Bill Murray, and Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good run. I mean, he was dominating.
That might be one of the best runs ever.
He's in the bag now. We're in the bag. We've opened it up. Here we are with him. It's good run.
And now, then, like I think after this, he took a break.
Yeah,
and then came back and did like a teen movie, and then he went to MIT and I think got like 4.0 engineering or something like that.
Yeah, he got a degree at MIT, and then he decided he needed to become get a doctorate in law from Yale. After that.
And after that, dare I say it, rule the world.
Well, he started working for the Republican Party after that. So.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, like I said. Well, on to a more pleasant topic, which is Faye, Leo's wife, who is inside. Very pleasant. She's trying to drum up support for a surprise birthday party for Leo after the Good Morning America appearance. America, rather.
I just can't see Faye without seeing Airplane.
Absolutely. Julie Haggerty. It was so good.
I just remember when this movie came out being so excited that she was like in another movie. I mean, she was obviously in a lot of stuff, but it's like, oh, awesome. Like she's in this. That's great.
But yeah, when I think of her, I think of those 3 movies, the Airplane 1 and 2, and then this movie. I mean, you're right. She's had like a great career, but in my mind, that's the only 3 movies she's ever been in, and that's all she needed to be in.
Yeah. She's perfect. Yeah.
Leo comes in and he's about to call the coffee shop when Bob just shows up on his doorstep. Oh, the owners of the coffee shop see him off and tell Dr. Marvin to burn in hell.
I did enjoy this like sort of running theme of them undermining everything.
So good. So good. Leo, of course, is beside himself, understandably so, at how inappropriate this is. And as the Marvins come out, Bob greets them all and flatters them. And Leo is even more aggravated. Leo walks Bob down to the water in that very Richard Dreyfuss putter pants way. Says he can't give him the therapy he needs because he's on vacation. He says he can do this. And he writes him a note that says, quote, take a vacation from my problems. He's giving him permission to take a vacation from his problems.
This reminds me of There's an episode of King of the Hill where Dale goes to the marriage counselor, and the marriage counselor's like, the greatest treasure in the world, and draws him a treasure map, and it's like, it's his own house. It's like, it's in your own backyard. So he winds up like digging up his entire backyard because he thinks there's buried treasure there. It's a kind of say like, I'm writing you a prescription to take a vacation.
To not think about anything. Well, Bob turns and follows after Leo, thanking him so much, hugging him, says he knew coming here was the right thing to do. Bob says, have a nice vacation, starts to take off, but he's forgotten his fish, which he gave to Faye when him and Bob went to talk. So he's back. Anyway, in a minute. Back in the house, Faye asks if everything is okay, and Leo is in this is nice mode, except Bob shows up asking for Gil, the fish. Coming into the house, Bob spots dolls on the mantelpiece that are representative of all the family members. Siggy comes downstairs, and they continue to gradually push Bob out the door. Everyone thinks he's pretty pleasant, and even Leo seems happy. So maybe this is going to end up fine. Maybe end of the movie coming up. We cut to a later scene, and Leo is working on hanging things on the mantelpiece and posing in front of them, which is really great. Anna, the older daughter, says for her part, she likes the rifle. It's a sign of virility, which I thought was really funny.
I just love him. He has two options: posing with the rifle or posing with Sigmund Freud.
Right.
And I love that. Yeah, those choices.
That dichotomy. Yeah.
I have a question about Anna. I mean, she was like her mid-20s. That's what it seemed like. Is that what?
Really? I would have thought she was younger than that.
I would assume that she was portraying younger than that.
Maybe so. It just wasn't clear, because that was kind of my question: was what is this? Just a post-college person who's gone to be with the family for a month?
I thought she was a high schooler. She may have been post-college in real life.
Yeah. I'm
Saved by the Bell.
That's what I'm
way.
curious about. That's why I was wanting to kind of see what you guys thought about that too. So I could see it either way.
You know who she kept reminding me of just visually? Karen Carpenter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that a bunch.
Put her on a drum kit. Let her go.
Oh, Robert, what
yeah.
was your read? How old did you think she was supposed to be?
Yeah, I thought she was like 16, 17. Yeah.
Oh, it's even. What's that?
But she's like, what we were saying, the actress was like 27 or 6.
Something
she
like
made
that,
it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was playing. She played it very young, but she was in her mid 20s.
Holy smokes.
And also by naming her Anna, which was Sigmund Freud's daughter, who was a child.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
That's where the name comes from.
Of course, Siggy, as we have said. Mm-hmm. Well, we hear the doorbell ring, and it's Bob. Uh-oh. He has a shirt on that says, "Don't hassle me, I'm local."
And we talked about this last episode, but I have this shirt, and I bought this shirt because an area that I live is lots of tourists come through, and so it does feel nice to wear it from time to time, and I get a lot of thumbs up.
That's great. Well, it looks like Bob has found a loophole. He says, I took a vacation from my problems, and now I'm just dropping by. It's not even an appointment. He says, I know we can't work, but let's keep the friendship going. Okay.
I love that line.
Well, Leo is in a panic after Bob leaves, and he says, family conference. He says he doesn't want anyone letting Bob into the house. Everyone starts to think he's overreacting a little bit because Bob seems pleasant. Well, Leo says, great, family conference over.
I'm still with Leo here. I mean, you don't know this guy. This guy's could be anything. He could be a crazy murderer. And you're letting him come hang out in your house. Just no. I'm
with you. Well, Bob's walking down the road by himself. We see Anna pulling up behind him. She asks if he wants a ride into town. Bob even lets go of the tissue issue when he realizes only the family uses a car, so it looks like Bob is growing. Mm-hmm. He asks Anna what it's like living next to a brilliant doctor. She says it's not great. She has problems like everyone else, like overanalysis about how everyone is feeling. Bob tells her some stuff she is liking to hear, people are just like telephones. Sometimes you just have to hang up and try again.
Stay connected. Yeah, it's like stay connected, but just hang up and try again or something like that.
Yeah.
Which again, it's not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bob's
right.
making some sense here. Happy Bob. Well, she likes it so much, she asks him if he wants to go sailing. And while that makes him scared, he signs up. And we cut to Bob tied to the mast with a life preserver screaming, "I'm sailing!" And I feel like this was always the scene you would see from this movie.
Yes, totally.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is interesting. Well, Leo and Siggy are back on the dock. And he is, Leo, that is, hanging Siggy over the water. Siggy says, "Don't drop me, I'm not ready." But at the same time, Bob and Anna come by on the boat, and Leo, sure enough, drops Siggy in the water in a moment of complete shock and surprise. The owners of the coffee shop are in their own boat observing the whole thing, which starts this great meme of them in the boat, which is a very John Landis thing for me, and I love it.
Yes,
So
very.
much.
It's like the Soviet trawlers that would just hang off the East Coast and just monitor things.
Yeah, I mean, it's
always
also
out there
like
floating around.
It's like a Muppet thing too. So
Yes,
Frank
very.
makes sense. Yeah. Leo goes to the dock in town to catch Anna coming off the boat. Bob keeps yelling at Leo that as he and Anna depart. Leo says, "I thought I told you to stay away from him." It's time they had a conversation. And he pulls out the puppet of himself and says, "I need you to listen to me," who's the puppet, "and stay away from Bob Wiley." And he makes Anna speak with her own puppet, and she is not happy doing so and eventually storms off. Guys, the puppets.
I remembered the puppets as being way bigger part of the movie
Me
than they actually
too.
are.
I just remember that being like a huge takeaway from the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this
They're
is
so
really the only time they figure in, aside from him seeing them earlier. But man, I remember them being a big part of it.
Yeah.
And they're so creepy.
Yes.
Very
Weird.
creepy.
They're kind of like Land of Make Believe from like Mr. Rogers,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah,
Good King Friday.
King
They had
Friday
those at
style.
MGM Studios at one point, right?
Oh yeah, they did. At the thing after you got off the
Backstage tour.
the backstage tour,
yeah.
the AFI or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before, but right when Bob's talking to him about how he went sailing, as he walks away, he goes, "Ahoy!" And that just made me laugh. He says ahoy.
Back at the Marvin home, Faye is working on her Good Morning America appearance in the mirror when Leo gets back. Leo is upset because he has realized that not only has Anna said that Leo is not fun, but that Bob was fun. Bob gets back to the Marvin house and starts talking to Siggy on the dock. Bob starts to talk to him, too, about his diving problems. Maybe his dad just wants to beat it, that's all. So Bob is like the therapist for the whole rest of the family at this point,
Yep.
which is pretty great. The kids, at least.
And Siggy's on a sweet Game Boy.
Yeah.
He
That gave me
is.
sort of scout camp summer vibes. Him sitting out on the
right.
dock with that Game Boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob asks Siggy to show him how to dive. Maybe Bob could learn to dive. So Siggy starts to give a tutorial on how to dive. And as he's doing this, of course, Siggy dives for the first time. And all kinds of commotion breaks out. Leo runs down to the dock saying, "I'll take it from here. I'll take it from here." And he pushes Bob, whether on purpose or not, off the dock. The whole family, other than Leo, of course, are in disbelief and just want to help Bob instead of celebrating Siggy's diving. Even Siggy is just like, "Forget it. Let's help Bob."
Yeah.
Poor Bob.
Pretty clear flagrant one there. Pushing off with the arm there.
And the old people are out there still.
Yes.
watching.
I love it. Later, as Bob showers off in the outdoor shower, the family is very upset with Leo. He says he would like the family to accept his apology. They say, "What about Bob?" They want him to apologize to him. And he says no. And he says, "Okay, I'll apologize to Bob. And now I'd like him to go." Faye asks, "Why are you so hostile to him?" Siggy asks, "Can we have Bob over for dinner?"
No.
Leo is starting to lose it. He says he wants to think about his interview tomorrow. Faye says, "I'm sorry, Leo, but right is right."
I mean, I completely agree with you guys. I mean, as far as from a realistic perspective, absolutely. But Bob, I mean, he's just so endearing. And it's like when he gives him that non-apology, Bill Murray's face, his reaction to it, it's
I love
like,
it.
it was so good.
It's such a great take. Yes.
Well, that's just the thing about the movie is that it's like a mixing board. It's like they take the fader and like slowly moves up Bill Murray on one and slowly moves Dreyfuss down on the other.
It's the anti-hero thing, on kind of like a Breaking Bad kind of thing where they're kind of moving around and playing with that.
Yeah.
We cut to dinner on that lovely porch with Bob making all kinds of yummy food sounds.
I used to totally do this just to annoy my sister.
Is this corn hand shucked?
That was good.
That scene kind of made me hungry, though. I was like,
It did me too. It was too close to reality for me. And
Not that.
just sitting out on the deck, having some corn.
This salad, pile it high and deep.
Yes.
Hey, take that tomato. Why don't you? Yeah.
Finally, Leo yells, "Would you stop that, please?" And he follows that up with saying he needs to stop calling him Leo, and at his home he needs to call him Dr. Marvin. Leo begins to choke while he's in the kitchen getting Bob a salt substitute, and the family goes in to help. Bob says, "Don't panic. I know what to do," and gives the Heimlich maneuver. Bob is amazingly very calm during all this. So fader may be beginning to move here. Finally, they put him down on the couch, jump on his back over and over again, which is a kind of cartoonish close-ups of Richard Dreyfuss's face. The food is dislodged, and instead of jumping to Leo, everyone jumps to congratulate Bob for jumping into action so quickly.
Who says, "I just never gave up hope."
A thunderstorm comes up, and we have Bob and the family singing in the Rain while they're cleaning the kitchen with a lot of joy. And Leo is on the couch right where he was choking, and he's just about to lose it.
So the lighting on the couch was bad. It really took me out of the movie there.
It's like a badly trained animal. Too dark? Was it too dark? What was going on?
That was like over. Maybe it was when he was lying on the couch. There was a scene where he's on the couch, and I think it might have been when he was after he dislodged the food. But they had like a lot of light bouncing up from the floor.
Too much.
And it just wasn't well lit. It was bad.
Awful. Well, he comes from the badly lit couch into the kitchen and says, "Tomorrow's a big day. Maybe it's time to call it a night."
I wonder how many plates they dropped doing that scene.
It was like the friggin' Hobbit with the dwarves in the kitchen throwing the dishes around. It was ridiculous.
I thought you were going to say the 3 men and the lady or 3 men and a baby when they're throwing the bottles around.
Also true.
Obviously,
same difference.
Cocktail. Well, he yells it out after kind of it's not heard. Faye says, "No way, it's raining too hard." Leo says, "I'll drive him." But he had kept the car down at the dock. Well, he says, finally he goes, "He can borrow my slicker," which kind of is a real buzzkill. We cut to a time later, and Bob is in the slicker on the couch, and the thunderstorm is raging on, which I love that shot of him just sitting like a little kid. Leo is losing his mind after watching the rain, hoping for it to stop. And Faye moves ahead with inviting Bob over to spend the night.
Of course, not only spend the night, but spend the night in the kids' room.
I know.
Yeah.
This drives Leo up the wall. And Faye doesn't like that at all. She says Leo's being rude. She says Bob is a sweet guy and perfectly harmless. And in the room with Siggy, Bob, they're talking about being afraid of death. Sharing a lot of thoughts about it. They're having a serious conversation, and we cut to Leo and Faye talking, and we hear Bob and Siggy start yelling at each other. They're jumping on beds, calling each other names, and what vocabulary they have.
But when they when Siggy and Bob are first get in the bed, though, he's like, "Which way do you want to face?" And he says, "I prefer facing southeast." And so they move his bed so he could do that. It makes me wonder how many of these lines were written versus just Bill Murray just improvising. That is on the spot.
I bet he improvised a lot of them.
Something I had read said that he said he improvised most of it. I think.
Yeah,
most of the
I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, they're jumping on the beds, calling each other names. Leo comes in and asks what's going on. Siggy says, Tourette's. Bob says, we got carried away. It won't happen again. And they get fussed at, as happens in every good sleepover. Leo says, please, Bob, just make sure you're out of the house by 6:30 in the morning. Bob asks Leo if he needs something for sleep. He offers some Valium to him, which I thought was a great touch. Faye tucks them both into bed and says, be good, because Good Morning America leaves the door cracked, as per Bob's instructions, lets him go off to dreamland. And right before bed, Bob drops his tissues again. And so we end Act 2.
Well, dawn rises above the lake. Leo immediately heads to Bob's room to throw him out. But Bob is passed out hard. He's sleeping hard. He resists Leo's very aggressive attempts to wake him up. Gets pretty much jumping on him by the end. But he is still out cold. But then Siggy's alarm clock goes off, which immediately wakes Bob up. He just straight away, eyes pop open. So down in the den, Leo is still fiddling with the bust of Freud that's on the mantelpiece. Faye's telling him to relax, but he's wound up tight. And Bob's just baby stepping around the house. He's baby stepping down the stairs. Leo goes to take him out the door. He's like kind of ushering him out. But Good Morning America has arrived. And Leo goes out to greet the reporter. They've got quite a little entourage. The reporter, Marie, who's played by Melinda Mullins, a.k.a. Hillary Booth from my favorite obscure 90s show,
I knew her.
When.
Gosh, yes, of course.
No, I didn't know.
Hillary
I don't
Booth,
recall that one.
of course.
Not Seinfeld.
It was the first show ever on AMC long before Breaking Bad was Remember When.
We're Mad Men.
Hillary Booth. Anyway, Leo welcomes the reporter and her producer and her director. Her director, who's played by Reg Cathy, who was on Square One Television.
I remember that.
Yes.
Also in like a gajillion other things, but I'm immediately like, it's the Square One dude. So that was fun. A talented crew. Anyway, they bring him into the house, and Leo's still trying to put himself together. He's like tucking in his shirt, and he's got toilet paper on his chin from where he cut himself shaving, and he's just kind of a mess. But he's getting primped up, and goes and just sort of sits in the chair by the fireplace. But the reporter finally prompts him. You know, he he nervously introduces the reporter to his family. He's like, "Oh, yes, this is my family," as everybody's just kind of staring at each other. And then, of course, Bob shows up at the screen door, and Marie finds out that Bob is a patient of Leo's, and she gets super excited about the idea of incorporating him into the show, which has got to violate some sort of ethics laws or something somewhere. But whatever,
Yeah, at this point, whatever.
Go for it. This, of course, horrifies Leo, but everyone's super stoked about this idea. The family and the production team, they're like, "Yeah, let's sit them both by the fireplace." Leo takes Bob outside to try and get rid of him. Says, please understand, I don't want you on this show with me. But then the director comes out to get them. And Bob starts to tell him, "Oh, yeah, he doesn't want me to be on the show." But then, Leo doesn't. No. Of course, come in. Like, he doesn't want to admit in front of the people that he's getting rid of Bob.
So real quick, when Bob's standing there, when he just first, they bring him in, and they're talking about, should this be a fireplace shot? And he's like, and the director's like, "Yeah, it's a fireplace shot." And then Bob starts telling that to the rest of the crew, and they're like, "Okay, cool, yeah." It's like immediately everyone likes Bob.
Yeah. He immediately, everybody thinks he's great, fantastic.
Take charge mode. Yep.
Yeah. So we cut to Good Morning America, where Joan London appears.
Joan London.
I was gonna make fun of Good Morning America the whole time through the show, and then I forgot about Joan London. And when she came on, I was like, I stand down, because it was a different era.
That's right. It's not what it is today. It was the era of London. She's not here to host a Christmas parade. She's here to introduce the spot, and she throws it to Marie up in New Hampshire. Well, Bob and Leo are both sitting fireside. Bob, of course, is very casual, and Leo is wound up just about as tight as he could be. And things immediately start to go awry as Bob pulls out a barf bag and pretends to vomit. And the reporter's kind of looks like, "What should we do?" And he's like, no, false alarm. And she's pretty unfazed. She's unflappable, is Marie. She starts asking about baby steps and how it works. And Leo's response is great. It's like the most stiff, canned response ever. It's almost like Barney Fife or something. I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. Like somebody trying to be very formal, but being very stiff. It's really awkward. But Bob is loosey-goosey, and he just takes over. He's giving these loose answers. He's all affable, makes baby steps sound awesome. He's like, "This is the greatest thing ever." It's like, "Leo's the greatest man ever." And, it comes out that she asks him, "How long have you been seeing Dr. Whatsit?" He's like, "Oh, we've known each other about 4 days." And she's like, "Oh, baby steps works that fast?" And so Bob and Leo's like, "Oh, baby steps is not usually meant to work on such a time scale." But Bob goes on this huge riff about how amazing Leo is, how he let him stay in his house and wear his pajamas and use his toothbrush. And Leo's just fuming the whole way. So Bob gets up and drags Leo's family on camera really awkwardly. And while they're all standing up, he takes Leo's place in the armchair by the fire, which was funny, and just starts talking directly to Marie. And he's going on this long riff about Leo, compares him to Dr. Albert Schweitzer and Mother Teresa. And Marie is eating this up. She is impressed by Bob, as are the Gutmans, who are watching on TV from their house. They're
just cackling. They're just loving it.
Yeah, they're loving it. They are eating it up. Bobby. So later outside, Marie is saying goodbye to Bob, asks him to come back in a few months to talk about his progress. And he's like, "Of course." I'm trying to think of it reminds me of some other character, but I can't think of it. It's like he's totally normal with everybody else. And then with Leo, he's just,
right.
It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something. But he's just totally smooth with everybody. It's perfect. the Good Morning America.
Wait a second.
People,
Hang on.
yeah.
That's interesting. So you think he was actually he was behaving differently around Dr. Marvin?
Oh, I think so.
Else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all of his neuroses come out
get
with
that.
Marvin. And he's just he's a lot more calm, cool, and collected with everybody else, it seems like.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought he was the same throughout it. That's what people liked about him, was he was just Bob. And people were, the neurotic things about him would come out when he was with Dr. Marvin, but I don't think he was like putting it on.
I don't think he was putting it on at all. No.
Okay.
No, I just think
he's just dependent on Leo and nobody else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm glad you clarified that. All right.
Yeah, and again, he changes throughout the movie, because like even around other people, like if he'd been like this around the people on like the bus at the start, but they were all sitting on the other end of the bus from him because he freaked them all out. But like now, everybody's like, "Oh, he's fantastic," So anyway, Good Morning America people leave. The family's raving about Bob's performance. And Siggy's like, "Yeah, Dad froze, but you really saved him." And they go inside, and Leo's standing by the fireplace. They give him a little round of applause, but he just loses it, starts screaming at Bob to get out, get out. Says Bob ruined his career, ruined his book, ruined his life. He has a total breakdown. His family doesn't get what's going on, or why is he kicking Bob out? Because they love Bob. So later, the family's just kind of sitting outside on the deck, talking to Bob. Bob's like explaining, he's like, Leo is so far above us. We can't really understand him.
We're like ropes in the Goodyear blimp. Is that what you said?
We're like the ropes hanging from the Goodyear blimp. We just can't.
So he's so far above us.
So far above us.
Can't be expected
That's right.
to understand him, is what they said. It's so good.
And I just love, like, the more like Leo loses it, the more Bob loves him. That's like the movie just gets funnier for me as it goes along because of that.
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, Leo comes out and he apologizes, says his outburst was showbiz nerves. It's like, "Can I have a talk with you, Bob? I want to pay you back for all the time you spent with me." So this movie's insane. Yeah, they jump in the car to go for a ride, and Bob is thrilled. But we get this insane zoom in on Leo's face with like this ominous music.
I wondered how many of Richard Dreyfuss's facial expressions were legit. Like,
Probably all of them.
Good question.
yeah, he didn't have to dig deep to find them.
No.
He is wound so tight. It is unbelievable.
Like, I figure we're probably pretty close to like run of the mill everyday Dreyfuss in general in this role.
Right.
And then especially him being around Bill Murray is even more accurate. Yeah.
I think there was a scene when he actually kicks him out, and then they're like, "Leo, what's gotten into you?" And he's like, "You think he's gone?"
Yes.
And he opens the door, and Bill Murray's like, "Is this some radical new therapy?"
Great.
That was such a great
line.
That's the one that I remember from the trail. Like, that was the one that would be like in the commercials or stuff, because he slams the door. "You think he's gone? He's not gone.
He's
Some sort of radical new therapy." And I love that, the more unhinged Leo get, the more Bob thinks that it's just some sort of like genius form of new therapy that he's got going on. So anyway, they drive off through the countryside. Leo says, "We're going to do some intensive psychotherapy," and drives Bob to some sort of like hospital-looking place. The guy at the gate recognizes Bob from TV, says he was great, which starts a running gag that continues throughout the movie. Well, we get a look at this place. It certainly starts to look like an institution. Leo introduces Bob to Dr. Tomsky, who has two very beefy goons who carry Bob off to his room. She says, "Leo, I can only hold him for 24 hours without staff corroboration." But Leo's laughing. He's like, "I'm sure the staff will corroborate." You know what Leo reminds me of? the chief inspector in the Pink Panther movies.
Yeah,
Who slowly goes crazy.
Inspector Dreyfuss.
Dreyfuss, yeah. And he even later starts to get little eye twitch too that Dreyfuss got. It's very similar.
Yeah, good call.
Starts chuckling and talking to himself. So anyway, he's driving home. Leo is. He's gloating to himself about defeating Bob. He's speaking to Bob, even though Bob isn't there, but a phantom Bob. He's acting pretty loopy. He gets home and he's dancing in the driveway, and Faye comes out with the phone. It's Dr. Tomsky. This didn't take long. But whatever she says sends Leo running back to the car, screaming, "No!" Well, back at the hospital, Bob has the entire staff sitting around a table in the dining room or something, an activity room, and he is doing bits.
I love this.
He's doing open mic night with psychology jokes, and everybody is loving it. They are eating it up with a spoon. He's just telling jokes. He's cutting up. Leo arrives. He's frantic, and this is when he starts to get his little twitch at Bob's voice when he hears Bob's voice. Dr. Tomsky has bought into Bob 100%. Says she won't admit Bob, which makes Leo really furious. It's he's delightful. What are you talking about? Which, I mean, come on, Dr. Tomsky. You got to look a little harder than that. But she is loving Bob.
And she's trying to save his reputation, right?
Yeah, she's you should check in yourself for a few days, get a handle on things. You're getting a little wound up here. None of this goes well with Leo, as you would imagine. And they head home, and Bob is chatting his ear off about, how many times a week they're going to meet and work and this and that and, all the appointments they're going to have. So Leo screams and slams on the brakes and gets out of the truck, gets out of the car, forces Bob to get out the other side. It just sort of leaves Bob by the roadside, which, of course, Bob thinks is part of the therapy. This is some sort of what is it, abandonment therapy or something like that.
Right.
So Leo gets pulled over by a police motorcycle because he's speeding. And while he's pulled over, Bob comes by with a passing driver who has picked him up. He's on the way back to Leo's house and waves as he goes by. This enrages Leo further, who immediately gets back in his car and then gets a flat tire. While trying to repair that, he gets splashed with mud. And the time he makes it home, by that time, it's nighttime. He is disheveled and covered in mud, and his tie is loose and his shirt's untucked. He enters the house he's Frankenstein, or it's The Shining or something.
Yeah, it's really cartoony at this point with the mud and stuff, and an art movie.
He basically they've got double doors and just flings them open. And he's all backlit, strobe backlit. So the family's in the backyard. They're like, "Hey, come out here, honey." So he goes out. It's his surprise party, which I had forgotten about by this point. And he's up on the balcony looking down. He's backlit, so they can't really see him. And a lot of people at this party. He knows a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a big birthday party. Everybody's singing happy birthday. They started singing He's a Jolly Good Fellow for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. And they've got a spotlight there, which is deluxe.
Yeah, where did that come from?
I don't know. They sprung for the deluxe package there.
I guess so.
Yeah, they throw a spotlight on. It's like prom, or it's like Carrie going to the prom, They throw a spotlight on him, and everybody sees that he's filthy and torn up. Everybody stops singing. His family's what happened to you? But it's so funny. He has this amazing change of mood the second he sees the crowd and they're singing about him.
Oh,
it's yeah.
He forgets all his problems immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's kind of manic, a little manic.
We're talking about me.
Yeah.
So that cheers him up, and he starts to get his little strut back. And he says, I just had a little bit of car trouble. That's nothing. And so he's being kind of like smug and self-satisfied. Well, Faye's like, we've got a huge surprise for you. Your sister Lily is here from Chicago. Lily, as previously mentioned at the start of the movie. And he's like, what? And he is excited to see Lily.
My sister!
My sister!
Lily!
And then Bob swoops out of nowhere, puts his arm around Lily. He's like, yeah, we're all here for you. And this is the last straw. He yells, don't touch my sister. And like goes flying through the air to tackle Bob. They roll around in the yard, sort of knock over the present table, which is piled high. And it doesn't end well. So later he's in bed, cleaned up. Doctor has been called. He's given Leo a sedative, but Leo's not asleep. He's doing his crazy eyes there and hiding that he's awake. Out in the hallway, the doctor is like, I'm going to prescribe some Prozac, which I thought was an odd pick, but whatever. Bob agreed with me, says, I don't think that... He's like doing like fake doctor talk, like doctor consult talk, except I guess it's real doctor consult talk.
Great. So great.
Yeah. I don't think these, these indications call for that treatment. And, maybe try Librium instead. The doctor's like, maybe you're right. And writes the prescription.
Lily, we hadn't talked about this, played by Fran Brill, who's worked with Jim Henson and Frank Oz, who a lot of parents may know as the voice of Zoe on Sesame Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
A little in front of the camera instead. Oh, that's a good... She felt like somebody I should know from something, but I would never have guessed that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, well, she's in Being There and Midnight Run, so she did a lot of things.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's cool. Go Lily. Lily asked Bob why Leo attacked him. Bob's like, Bob is just... he's just as fluffy as can be. He's like, I don't know, but... he's just been having a tough time lately. I'm just going to stick around and take care of the family and,
I'll be
play
dad.
I'll be dad for a while. Yeah.
Play dad.
And she is buying Bob hook, line, and sinker. She's like, oh, Bob, you're so sweet. You're so wonderful to do this for the family. And, she takes off and they kind of like, get a little glancing back and forth with Bob there. What no one knows is that Leo is awake. He's out of bed. He's climbing out a window and off to somewhere. And, finally Faye talks to Bob and says, we know Leo's being irrational. We don't know why he's being like this, but maybe it's better that you aren't here when he wakes up, which finally a little realization of that there's an issue here. Yeah. It's like, maybe you shouldn't just be here when he wakes up since he just snapped at you.
Yeah, just a little bit of sobriety from the family.
Yeah, just finally. But everybody's sad. And Bob's like, do you really want me to go? And they say yes. And he leaves, but then immediately comes back through the door to tell them he's had the best vacation. So in town... this is where it really starts being funny for me. Leo is breaking into the general store where they have a generous supply of handguns. But this is kind of like the scene in Pulp Fiction in the pawn shop where Bruce Willis goes, he passes up the guns. He's like, no, there's too much. There's some bows and arrows on the wall. He's like, no, it's too painless or too quick and painless or something. Then he comes across the general store's enormous supply of black powder explosives. Apparently the town has a stump problem because they need to blast for stumps a lot.
Stump out.
Stump out. Yeah. I love this, like the promotional signage for it, explaining what this is for. So Leo's very excited and stocks up on stump out. Back at home, the family's realized he's gone, so they're looking for him. Siggy thinks maybe he's going to become a mass murderer. Is this how mass murderers get started? Oh, now you're worried about mass murderers. Fine. Bob is walking down a dark country road where since he left the house, he actually did leave. He's getting spooked out by the sound effects of critters and things. He starts to freak out, starts yelling for Leo, and Leo just shows up out of nowhere with a rifle pointed at Bob. Leo forces Bob into the woods, and they hide as the family drives down the road looking for Leo. And they sort of drive past, and Bob's like, "Oh, so what are we doing? Yeah." And Leo walks Bob off through the woods, and Bob's just happy to go. He's like, "So I guess what we're doing is," he's trying to like invent a reason for everything Leo's doing that's like a genius. And Leo's tying him up to a log, and Bob's happy, and he just keeps talking. And Leo finally says, "I'm going to kill you. In fact, I'm going to blow you up. I've got 20 pounds of black powder," which, wow. He's very excited about it. Says, "It's the only way you'll ever go away." And Bob's like, "I'll go away." He's like, "No, you won't." Leo's really off the rails. Bob is convinced it's some sort of trick still. Leo leaves him in the woods, and Leo's going off talking about how he's going to eat the goldfish. He's going to eat Gil. And he's kind of fantasizing about, Tuesday afternoon, we eat the fish. Yeah. More fish, please.
And Bob's like, "I have to admit, you're pretty convincing there, Dr. Leo."
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, yeah. But he's like, yeah, it's all part of the plan. Bob's justifying what's going on. He's trying to figure out some logic to this thing. He thinks that it's at the heart, it's all about how he's tied up in emotional knots. And if he doesn't untie those emotional knots, he's going to explode mentally. He's like, brilliant. This is a brilliant metaphor for Doctor. And so the first thing I do, baby steps, got to get out of the knots, baby steps. So, he gets out of the knots, heads back to the house where Leo is running around screaming, "Free!" out on the dock. And Bob shows up and goes inside. Then the family rolls up, calls out to Leo, who's still out on the dock. Leo's super cheerful and super fluffy. He's fine now. Bob's gone. Everything's great. But then Bob comes out of the house with the birthday cake, nice big sheet cake, singing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow." And the family, to their credit, immediately try to get Bob to leave. They're like, "No, no, 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 no." But Leo is like, "Wait a second. What are you doing here? And where are the explosives?" Bob, of course, says they're in the house, and the house explodes in a very, very massive explosion as well. Very, very effective pyro work here.
So they had to build a half scale or like a quarter scale home.
Oh yeah,
blow it up.
I believe it. Well, that would make sense because it would be crazy otherwise. Because it really goes up. It really goes up. Mm-hmm. And then Bob says what is the probably most infuriating thing imaginable, which is "Oops." Like, I would have killed him. I would have just killed him there. I don't care. He's like, "Oops." And the Gutmans are out in their boat and they're yelling, "Burn, burn,
Love
burn."
it. So good.
Yeah, they're great. And it is so Muppety. You were so right. That's the perfect call. Very Muppety. So we cut to sometime later. They're in the mental hospital. Leo has gone completely catatonic. He's kind of started working on a little basket weaving project in his hand, but he's just zoned out totally. The family's come to talk to him, but they're like, "The worst is over. The worst is over. Come back to us." And Siggy's like, "Yeah, Dad, I mean, how much worse can it get?" And then smash cut to a church where Bob and Lily are getting married, which is a great punchline for how much worse can it get. And, Leo's sitting there sort of drooling in his chair.
In his bathrobe.
In his bathrobe in the church.
I didn't even bother dressing him up.
And, the preacher or whoever it is says, "Speak now, forever hold your peace."
That's Mr. Lippman, Elaine's boss from Seinfeld.
Oh, I knew I recognized him from something, but didn't think to check. Okay. Everybody, man. Anyway, this triggers Leo. He tries to say something, but is unsuccessful. He can't quite get it out. So the priest pronounces Bob and Lily man and wife, which causes Leo to jump from his chair and scream, "No!" He snapped out of it at last.
Very Darth Vader-ish.
Yes, very, very. No. As a matter of fact, yeah. The church erupts in applause at his resurrection. The family is delighted that he's back. Dad, you're back.
Bob. Do you see what Bob's doing in the background?
No.
He's like cheering him on. He's trying to rile him up and trying to get everyone to start cheering and clapping. He's like a cheerleader.
It's perfect. Yeah. So it's like everybody's super excited. Leo's super traumatized. And that's the end. As we go to credits, we get some titles that read, Bob went to school and became a psychologist, wrote a bestseller called Death Therapy, which is what he was convinced that Leo was doing to him in the woods, was death therapy. And that Leo is currently suing him for the rights. And so we end, What About Bob?
I said you called Dr. Robert. Day or night, he'll be there anytime at all. Dr. Robert, Dr. Robert, you're a new and better man. He helps you to understand. He does everything he can. Dr. Robert.
Baby steps, y'all.
Baby steps.
Yep. That he sold more books than Leo did.
Mm-hmm. A runaway bestseller. Death Therapy.
Well,
did we mention that Robin Williams was attached to this movie at one point?
That makes sense.
Oh, I could totally see that too.
Robin Williams and Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
Oh, be a different vibe.
Yeah.
Could have worked.
Yeah, could have worked. Of course.
I would have loved to see Patrick Stewart do that. Yeah, what a movie.
So
what
good.
A kind of dark movie.
Yes, very
sort of
much
shockingly
so.
dark.
It really is, yeah.
That like fish called Wanda space.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
Well, should we rate it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's crank up the Touchstone rating system.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner, head of Walt Disney.
It's brought to us by Disney's Wide World of Sports and Topps Trading Cards, part of the Go Network, go.com. We're going to figure out if this is a single, a double, a triple, or a home run. Any predictions before we start, guys?
Well, I think at least an easy triple, standing triple, I think.
Okay.
Bold words.
I will say my opinion of the movie, and I think I indicated this talking about it. It changed as I was watching. Because at start I was like, this is a rocky road. But by the end I was in. So it's like, it earned my score as it went.
All right, well, let's find out what about Bob. Let's start with plot and writing. Scale of 1 to 5. I'm going to give it to Andy Brown. What do you give it?
Oh, wow. I think it's just solid all the way through. I think I can't really fault it for too much. I mean, it's a nice solid hour and 40 minutes. It moves nicely. There's, just like you guys pointed out, it's kind of playing with some ideas here. You could be either you're pro Bob or you're pro Dr. Leo Marvin. And I think where you come down on that kind of determines how much you like this movie. But for me, most of the movie, I'm pro Bob. And so I think I don't know. Again, kind of going back to some of the lines. I don't know how many of those were improvised. I would imagine so, but I'm sure some of them are probably written too. I'm going to kind of lump in some of the improvisation into that, and I'm going to give it a solid 4.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. And I thought that the whole kind of the plot of how it moves through your kind of knowledge of these characters and how they kind of morph scene to scene is really kind of ingenious. And, I could do without a little bit of the kind of Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner stuff a little bit, but but overall, I think it's just so unique, and the way it deals with it and subtlety of like everybody reacting off of the same kind of stuff from Bob is really hilarious. So 4 for me. Robert, what about you?
I love Andy. I love how you said, yeah, you're either in Bob's camp or you're in Leo's camp, and I'm Team Bob all the way. And I can't find a lot of fault in this movie. There was no moment where I cringed. There's no, aside from the lighting on the couch, which happened twice, there was two poor lighting choices on the couch. I don't know what it was about that couch, but it's a 4.
So the lighting is affecting the plot and writing?
Well,
now?
it's not affecting the plot and writing. It's the overall movie, I guess. It's kind of what took me out of it.
What is the light's motivation?
That's right.
I'll discuss the lighting more and the production value.
Please, yes. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I think you guys have really talked me into it. Like I said, at the start, I was not feeling it. It felt sort of dated in the mental illness,
Right.
And I was like, this isn't going to age well.
Right.
But then, like I said, it does that switcheroo where it amps up or sort of tones down Bob and amps up the doctor. And it just works in a very clever way, which I was not expecting at the start. It does. I think it has one too many sort of, oh, I've gotten rid of Bob. Oh no, here he is again. Kind of like
right.
That kind of got a little But again, maybe that's necessary to understand why like Leo would go so bananas, like trying to get rid of him. Like you had to make him annoying to make it make sense and just not make Leo a crazy person off the bat too. So anyway, yeah, I agree. I'll give it a 4.
All right, let's stay with you on casting and acting. How much 1 to 5 do you give? What about Bob?
It's hard to think of anything to detract because like Dreyfuss and Bill Murray are both they're both essentially themselves. I feel like, not knowing either one of them, but I feel that the line between reality and fiction was very blurry here. They're so perfectly cast. And like the kids are good. Like Charlie Korsma's good. Anna isn't given a whole lot to do, but she's like, pleasant and reasonable and normal. Julie Haggerty's great. You know what? There's nothing really to fault it. I feel like giving it a 4, but I could be talked into a 5, but I'll give it a 4, but yeah.
Okay, what about you, Robert?
I will go 5. I think I loved the way they played off each other. You hear the stories about how they were fighting, Dreyfuss and Murray, but whether it was intentional or not by Frank Oz to let them do it, it worked. I thought that it played well, and so it's a 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to retcon myself to a 5. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to go back and, agreed.
What about you, Andy?
I am going to pass. I want to hear what you have to say first.
I don't know what to say. I think I'm going to say 4 just to bring it for our average thing. I agree with everything that's been said. I also, it's kind of a smaller cast. I feel like the big acting was between 2 people. I have no complaints about what I saw, but I just going to bring down the average just a touch.
I echo that 100% because I was so torn. I mean, Bill Murray really is amazing in this.
Absolutely.
And as much as I personally, I didn't like Dr. Marvin, but I think that's what a good actor can do. And so Dreyfuss, I think he did an outstanding job, and you are absolutely spot on. That's really the spotlight is on those two. While Charlie, there were a few stars, bright, shiny moments outside of that, like you said, like Ziggy, and then of course I really loved the old people. They were fantastic as well. But yeah, it's one of those 4.5s for me, and so get the average right, I'm going to go with a 4 as well.
Good. I feel much better about mine with you doing that, offsetting it. Yeah.
Production value, Robert. It's all you. Take us.
I mean, it's shot on location. I think at an actual house there on what was the name of the lake there in Virginia?
Smith Mountain Lake.
And there's no like over the top production value. Short, and then you have, of course, the distraction of the lighting in the house. But you give them a little bit of a break because they're trying to light inside of an actual house, and I imagine that's difficult.
They did it better than Parent Trap too.
That's true. Much better. It's open concept, so it makes it easier. Because in Parent Trap 2, you're in those little narrow kitchens they were working with. So give them a break on that one.
Mr. Garrison's.
And I was read that they painted the whole little town there, little community there, with bright colors. I'm not sure why they went that far, but I guess they felt like they wanted to make it look more New Hampshire like. Building the scale house and blowing it up, that was kind of nice. But I guess at the end of the day, I mean, I can't think of anything that would make it great. So I'm just going to stick in the middle of the road and go with a 3.
Yeah, I'll bump it up to a 4. Everything looked good. I wanted to go to that place. It was kind of aim small, miss small. I see what you're saying, but I think just with the body of work that we're grading it with, I'm going to say it's slightly above average. It's a 4 for me. I'll stick with my 4s where I've been. Michael.
Yeah, it is, like you said, aim small, miss small. It's it's not a big budget production. It wasn't. It's kind of like with the cast. It's hard to rate the cast when it's just a handful of people, really. And so, I mean, it was. I enjoy this sort of little community they had there, but nothing really stood out for me aside from the house blowing up. I'll give it a 3 to continue the balancing act.
And Andy.
I am with you guys as far as everything you've said. I guess I'll add on by saying that the music, there was not really much there, at least nothing memorable. There was no major, they blew up the house, but it was a small model. I'm not going to give any, at this point in time, by the movies that we're seeing, I think just by being on location is not enough. And so with all that, it's just going to be a 3 for me.
Okay. You guys are going to pull me down to a 3.
No, I wanted you to stay 4 because it feels like it needs to be.
Okay, I'll stay 4.
Yeah.
We're working as a team tonight.
I love when synergy can happen.
I agree with all that everybody has said. There's no disagreement here, but now we get to entertainment value, and I want to stick with you, Andy. What are you going to give this one?
It's a 5 for me. I mean, no doubt.
5. Okay.
I think it's so well done. All the pieces together, I think it works really well. I enjoyed it. I was so delighted to rewatch this movie, and I couldn't. As I was watching, I was just laughing out loud to my family. We're going to bed, and my daughter came down and just sat and watched with me for a while, and she wants to watch it now. So I mean, it was great, and so yeah, 5.
I also love this movie, but there's just a few things that would just take it off that top line. Like I would rather watch Groundhog Day than this movie if I'm going to watch a movie like this. But so I'm going to give it a 4. But it's It's very enjoyable. It's a really great movie from this era. I love all these Bill Murray movies when he was so on. So a lot of the same reasons, but I'm going to just ding it just a little bit and give it a 4. Robert?
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I think it's going to be a 4 for me as well. It's not. I don't know. Just something. I mean, I watched it recently, like within the last year or two, just because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about how good that movie was, and it stood up and it was great, and it still is. But yeah, I just don't. I can't give it a straight up 5 though. So,
and we'll end with Michael.
I think you guys have talked me into a good sturdy 4. I think it's too stressful a movie for me to revisit often.
That's part of my thoughts too.
It's like I like totally appreciate it for what it does, and like I can see the goodness. I can see the goodness in you, but it's too stressful to be something I'm going to just pop in and watch. Although I can see, totally like for Bill Murray fans, how it could be something that is just an anytime movie. So yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
That's fair.
Let's punch this into the BCS, presented by the Wide World of Sports, ESPN, Topps Trading Cards, right there on the Go Network. Robert, what does the BCS say about What About Bob?
What About Bob did very well, as we would imagine. It came in with a home run, our first home run of the season, with a 4 flat, 4.00. Just inched it over the wall.
Right over the wall.
Very nice.
And so where's that going to put it in our big board? I mean, that's got to be pretty high.
On the big board, it's coming in at number 13, but we do have a tie. We have a 3-way tie. So actually, I guess it's more of an 11. The Shaggy Dog, 4. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, 4.
Hey, same screenwriter.
4.
Hang on, just quick. Robert, I'm looking at the thing and okay, yeah, never mind. Keep going. Sorry.
So what's 10 and what's 14?
So just above it is That Darn Cat with a 4.06. Old Yeller with a 4.06. And then right below it is White Fang. One of those movies that kind of hit above its average there.
Yeah, punching above its weight.
It's always these movies.
3.94.
Yeah, it's like Natty Gann and White Fang. They're peas in a pod.
Natty Gann's right underneath it with 3.9. So.
They're bobbing and weaving away from our critiques.
Big fans of the Pacific Northwest are we,
That's right.
I suppose.
All right. Well, we have rated this one a home run. It has left the park the first of the season. I'm really curious what old Ebert said to say about this, Andy.
No, not a lot from Ebert. We were able to lift his commentary from At the Movies. The key to the comedy of What About Bob is Dreyfuss, who's so neat and fussy and tidy and organized, with every whisker so perfectly trimmed on his perfect beard. With Bill Murray as a human unmade bed, they get laughs almost simply by appearing on screen together. Julie Haggerty is a good foil as the doctor's sweet and sympathetic wife. The best news about the movie is that it shows Bill Murray fully back in comedic form. This is his best work since Ghostbusters.
Wow.
What had he done in between? I wonder.
Question.
That's a good question. Let's take a look real quick here.
He did like a couple of serious ones there.
Oh. He's not in full comedic form.
Yeah.
Yes, he was struggling there.
Well, what about Bob, guys? In the end, Bob did all right.
Bob did well. Bob did good for himself.
Good on you, Bob.
What about Bob? Good for him.
He did it.
Well, here we are. We are wrapping it up here, and you could tell us what you think about What About Bob at info@medfieldfilm.com. Guys, I'm a little disappointed. We were like getting emails like crazy back in the summer, and we kind of hit a dry spell. Like our usual emailers have fallen off the radar on us. I don't know. Maybe they're not Touchstone guys.
Yeah, maybe we've changed up our formula and
Change the
abandoned them.
format. You've ruined the act, Job.
So maybe that's it. Hey, guys, if that's it, email us and tell us, hey, I don't like Touchstone films.
It's been a long day, and I just
and
don't
now's
like
the time to
Touchstone
tell us
films.
that, because what am I going to be doing over, right now, as this episode is airing or being released, is that I'm going to be working on season 7. So let us know what you want, and you can let us know on social media at Medfield Film. You know where to find us.
Let's do that darn cat again. Lucky 7. I don't know what that means.
Lucky number 11.
Who's the hottest graphic designer on the market today? Todd! Who's got years of experience and the freshest ideas? Todd! Whose font skills are so lit, he's known as the typography GOAT. Todd! He's got illustrations so smooth, he once brought TikTok to its knees. Todd! They call him the beast of branding, the alpha of advertising, and the lord of logos. Todd! In the mid-2000s, this guy needed a restraining order against Nicole Eggert and Tara Reid. Todd! He's an icon, a boss, a legend in the industry. Todd! Hace los gráficos para uno de los mejores podcasts del mundo. ¿Cómo se llama? Todd! Just for fun, he once tracked down and punched an internet troll who gave one of his clients a bad Yelp review. Todd! He holds the record for being the subject of the most BuzzFeed quizzes. Todd! He denied if you asked him about it, but in Japan, there's an annual parade held in his honor called El Kaku Otoko. Todd! Who's someone who was once believed to be dead, but he was totally alive the whole time, and no one knew. Todd! If you need some sweet-looking graphics for your next project, who would you hire? Todd! That's right, Todd Napprig at BindingGraphics.com. He will make you look good. And check him out on Upworks. Todd!
All claims about Todd Napprig are true, mostly true, or completely false. The Medfield College Film Society is not responsible for any harm that comes to Yelp reviewers or their families. Please drink responsibly. See website for details.
So from all of us to all of you, we will see you soon. We wish you well. And join us next time for Mystery Touchstone Movie. So long.
Todd!
Proud are we of mighty Medfield, alma mater dear. All your sons and daughters hail to thee, Medfield College of Technology. And while we hold your banner high, rock, rock, we shout your praises to the sky, rock, rock. For proud are we of mighty Medfield.